Fight Club is a movie that is seen as a classic, but the ideas of toxic masculinity and going against the system. It does follow the protagonist of Tyler Durden and narrator. The movie really is about a system and going against that system, but takes it to the extremes in this movie. We start the movie off with a scene of Tyler and the narrator, played by Brad Pitt and Edward Norton, at the top of a building. A gun is in the narrator's mouth as he's taped in the chair. It's a quick scene at the start of the movie that really sets up the rest of the movie. It's a good way to start it, due to it being a good cold opening, like in a show, like Breaking Bad. After the cold opening, we see the narrator at a doctor's office. The scene that explains the narrator's insomnia condition, and it is not that he can't stop watching the movie from 2002, but instead it's that he can't sleep. It does set up the idea that the narrator isn't well mentally, and is an important scene when watching the movie over and over again. After the scene, we get to see the coolest idea ever invented in the humanity history: capitalism. So if you're a communist, you might want to leave the room. The idea of capitalism in the narrator's house, as it is filled with IKEA furniture and each one having a price tag. Everything really does add up in cost, but it's never mentioned how much it is in total. It's a good scene to show the system that the narrator is in. The next thing that happened in the movie all revolve around support groups. In order to get his insomnia better, the narrator goes to a bunch of support groups for things he doesn't even have, just to make him sleep better. After going to the breast cancer one and encountering Bob, he is able to sleep like a baby in his bed. He goes to multiple support groups to help him continue to sleep well. The other thing that happens is he discovers his true self, a penguin. He is a penguin on the inside, and he goes into the mystical cave with one to explore his true inner self for one of the groups. After discovering his inner beast, the narrator finds Marla Singer at one of the support groups. He knows that she is faking having the condition like he is due to the fact that she is smoking, which is a crazy thing to do in a building, but also she's in the testicular cancer group. And now we get to see more consumerism at the narrator's house, as he calls it his friend, which is fair. It is always nice to waste money on something we won't use. That's capitalism. We then proceed to meet Tyler, a soap man who you might have seen an edit of at one point on TikTok about whatever it is, with funk music in the background probably. He and the narrator have the same suitcase and meet through that after he tells him what he does for a business, which is selling scented soaps. After the narrator returns home, he sees his house caught up in flames. It's fully destroyed. All of his consumerism goods are sadly destroyed. This is when Tyler offers him a spot at his house, which must be luxurious for him. But first they head to a pub to grab a drink. After they have a little drink and head out of the pub, we get the hit me scene. The hit me scene where Tyler tells narrator to hit him. He does, softly at first, because why wouldn't you, but then decides to hit him harder the second time, after being encouraged to. This is the incitement that starts the name of the movie, Fight Club. After this scene, that is the important scene to the title of the movie, where we get to see South Chicago in the flesh, the paper house where Tyler lives and offers the narrator to live after his house gets burnt down. Yep, it really is an upgrade. Next, we actually get to the name of the movie. Notice how, from now on, I'm not going to say it. That's because I don't want to end up on a list. We all know the first rule. Now, the title of the movie is now getting larger and larger. More people are joining it, and more people like to beat each other up, for funsies. The most important rule is the aforementioned first rule. We all know what that rule is. After the events of said movie, we go back to see Marla, who calls the narrator to say that she's going to overdose if he doesn't help her. Narrator doesn't care and decides to leave her hanging instead of hanging up. Next thing you know, we wake up with some implied actions between Tyler and Marla. After this, Tyler and the narrator go to steal some liposuction from a clinic so that Tyler could use it in his soap. After they do those shenanigans, Tyler decides he wants the narrator to do the fire challenge, burn his hand and resist the pain to end up in a fire edit. We then return to the letters of the movie as Lou, the boss of the place where they hold this event, finds out they are doing this club without his permission. He beats up Tyler because he refuses to move out of the building, and Tyler doesn't fight back. He accepts his loss that way. We then see what the homework assignment Tyler assigned was: start a fight and willingly lose it to a stranger. We see this as many members lose their fights, and the narrator fights his boss and loses to him. We then get to see the ideas of Project Mayhem, which is now what replaced the title of the movie. Might as well add it on as a subtitle. The project brings the people who were from the club onto a new anarchy-based project. This project really does bring out the worst in people as we see them destroy buildings and spread their message. The movie at this point really does a good job of saying when something has gone too far. The narrator realizes that it has gone too far and tries to stop it. He almost gets into a car crash when Tyler was driving the car. After that, Bob himself, Robert Paulson, dies to a gunshot wound in the stomach. As he tries to stop it, he realizes that he hasn't been himself lately. He has a realization after rethinking everything he has experienced recently, and realizes the twist of the movie, the surprise that gets everybody. Narrator is Tyler Durden. After this, we see him go back into the finance building and try to get himself out of it by telling some cops what happened. The cops are in Project Anarchy, so they do not care what happens to him. After this, he tries to stop a bomb that he knows is in a van parked in the same building. Tyler gets mad at the narrator for doing this and continues to beat him up. This is where we transition to the start of the film, the "you're probably wondering how I got here" moment of the movie. This is the final scene in the movie where the narrator shoots himself in the mouth, but still lives afterwards. Whoa. Hammond Marlowe watches the buildings with bombs and their fall around them as they hold hands, like one of the letterbox pictures you might see. The music in Fight Club, while not as iconic as tracks like Interstellar or Oppenheimer, is still a good score. It does what a score should do when it comes to the scenes. It should fill up the scenes with actual music and not just background noise. I just feel like the score here doesn't leave as much of an impact on me as Interstellar really did. But to each their own. The score is still good. I like the ideas that the Dusty Brothers were going for, but it could always be a little more. Something more to give me the urge to listen to them outside of the movie, instead of just hearing it in the movie and thinking, oh, that sounds pretty cool. Fight Club came out on October 15th, 1999, which, since David Fincher doesn't have a release schedule like other directors, doesn't really mean much for the month or the season. But the budget of Fight Club was about $62 million, which puts it below Interstellar, which makes sense due to the scope of this movie and how smaller it is compared to something like Nolan movies like Oppenheimer, Interstellar, Tenet. Fight Club also made $101 million at the box office, which makes it a net loss for the company, but still was able to be seen as a popular movie out of theaters, which usually happens with these types of movies. On IMDb, Fight Club has a 8.8 out of 10, which puts it at number 13 on the 250 top movies of all time on the IMDb website, as of recording this, and which is above Interstellar by 6 places. On Letterboxd, it has a 4.3 out of 5, which puts it right now at the 173rd highest rated movie. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has an 81%, and on Metacritic, it has an 67, because it was more controversial with the critics on there. Fight Club is a good movie with a lot of scenes in it that I won't get into because of the whole complication with them, like toxic masculinity and all the funny edits you might see, but it does a good job at showing what it wanted to show because of the multiple rewatches you can go through, and you see more and more things the more you see it, and what it is trying to present can change in you depending on how you go into the movie, which might sound a little corny, but it always depends. The movie was overall a very good time, so I would give it a 9.7 out of 10, putting it right below Interstellar, since this is the only other movie on the list. And like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, I guess, finish the list. Bye.